Hello, everybody, and welcome to Strength Hammer, episode 48. Yes, I think it's 48.
Getting close.
Getting close, getting close. We didn't steal anyone's intro today because the closest I could think of was stealing Rob from The Honest Wargamer, where he just says, "Hello, this is The Honest Wargamer," but it doesn't work. It's not a bit. Like it's his thing, but it's not a bit.
Yeah.
So instead, we'll come in today, Neil, with the grip and rip. How's that?
Sounds good.
That's good. Tastes good too. Neil, how you doing today on this lovely podcast recording Thursday evening?
I'm doing great. In fact, I got a little workout in tonight, Chuck.
What?
I don't want to jump ahead to our but I got a little workout in. Did some body weight stuff. Did some push-ups.
That's
so nice. I'm going to try and do I am 41, so I'm going to try and start doing 41 push-ups every day.
Actually, there's been a thing on Instagram. It's been going on for February. I think I might have mentioned it before, but 40 push-ups every day, and a lot of people jumped onto it. So
nice.
Yeah. You're just on brand. That's all you're doing.
I really am. Yeah. Or I'm just that old. So
you're just 41. You're just 5 years older than me.
Well, I'm about 2 weeks away from increasing that number of push-ups by 1. So
I am. Shoot, March is soon. I'm mid-March. Are you the 12th?
I'm the 5th.
5th. Oh, damn it. Sorry.
That's why that little Warhammer event I'm going to be going to is so intriguing.
Let's just start there. Let's just start there. What is this event on March 4th that you're going to and I might be going to?
Well, the gentleman, Ben, who is running the Adepticon Warhammer Fantasy Battles, is running a primer at our local game shop. So just to kind of see how his pack goes and how everything works together. He's 2,500 points. And what I kind of looked at the pack top to bottom the other day, and what I find super intriguing about it, and I really love it, is that he has objective play in Warhammer Fantasy Battles. And,
which I'm not opposed to trying that. I saw that bit briefly, and I read the other things he suggests, like, hey, let's not do this. Let's make Banner of the World Dragon reasonable, which as a high elf player like you, Neil, I find that offensive. I'd rather get my 2
up. It's 100% reasonable already. I don't understand.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. But I am a little concerned because I thought about I'll get the dwarves out. I've been kind of gaming with them, but like with the objective play, can the dwarves even have a shot at that from what you've seen? Because I didn't read the pack that fully yet. I just glanced past it.
Yeah, because it's so basically with the objectives, there's 3 across the middle, evenly spaced, and so you score an objective. Essentially, if you have a unit with more wound, or you have more wounds around that objective than the opponent. However, core has obsec.
Okay.
So if you have 1,000 wounds on it, and I bring up some spearmen, I control the objective. So, yeah, which I find very interesting.
Is he doing a battle for the pass at all, where it's like the short edge deployment?
I don't think so. I think they're all the long deployment.
Okay, well that makes sense. Yeah, because if it's long and you're a dwarf, because the thing is too, as a dwarf player, I don't want to. You come to me, that. It's interesting. Like I said, it's. I'm not.
You might shake up your list a little bit though. Maybe actually play the game with Warhammer instead of this shoot hammer.
No, that's shoot hammer's what dwarves do. That's the game they play. I'm sorry.
There's many ways. You just got to branch out. You got to expand your mind.
No.
Break out of the matrix there a little bit, Chuck.
Yeah, no, we have moving dwarves in Age of Sigmar, and it doesn't work, Neil.
It doesn't. You're right. It doesn't work.
It
works for some.
It
works for some people, and I'm not really sure how.
Reject movement, embrace the shooty castling. Anyway, we'll talk a little more about that maybe let's start with the fitness because that's where you began, Neil. Fitness. What
Hmm.
fitness are you doing? Like, where have you been this past week?
We're doing push-ups. I got the dumbbells back out, doing some different dumbbell work, some just body weight squats, things like that. Just trying to get myself slowly back into this stuff.
Okay, did you talk to Alex Fithammer at all about the nutrition stuff?
I have not yet.
Alex, I'm calling you out. Call Neil. As soon as you listen to this, stop what you're doing. Even if you're pooping, you pick up that phone and you dial and say, "Hey Neil, I'm pooping, but we're getting through this."
Hmm.
Gotta get him healthy. All right. My fitness has been a little lackluster from what you might expect after last week because last Friday, the day after recording, went to the gym with Alex. We were doing our workout. We're doing a nice little 3 day week high volume bodybuilding program, and we were on the last set or next to last set of the first set of squats. And I had this injury once before, but like I came up and I felt that little like pop in like my very lower back, like that like you feel something move, and then your muscles start cramping and seizing, and you gotta, it's not pleasant.
Hmm.
Have you ever had that?
Sounds like a slip disc to me.
I mean, if it slipped, it went back into place. But I've had this
Yeah,
before.
which they can do, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Like I said, it's
you may have a little minor herniation.
yeah. Which I mean, if you're squatting and deadlifting heavy weight years and years, you're gonna probably get minor herniations. Like I said that's I
Mhm.
form was good. Maybe my form stopped for a second. Maybe I was fatigued because we were doing lots of different workouts from this program, or maybe it just happened because like I had this happen once before on Romanian deadlifts and this was both of these were very lightweight. That's the other thing. Like was not even I was it might have been like 185 for squats, and I squat all the time, so it's just one of those things. It's part of the process. It's gonna happen. You're gonna get hurt. So I
Yeah, I
immediately,
was doing clean and jerks with very low weight, just for reps, and that's how I hurt my shoulder. It wasn't for with heavy
yeah,
weight at all. It was just me losing my form on really lightweight, actually, which was the problem.
yeah. Like I said, it could have been a number of things, but like I felt good going into it, and like thankfully, I guess thankfully, I had this injury before, and then like I was, it was a longer process. It took me like 2 3 weeks to kind of get back into the gym. Whereas this, like, it's been a week as of tomorrow, and like I decided to just take a week off from the gym. So I've been doing light stuff, walking a lot, constant stretching. The first couple days were always, rough because like, you fall asleep and like you're trying to relax, can't get comfortable, and then you wake up and then it seizes back, like it tightens back up. So like honestly today I woke up, I'm like mostly pain free. Like I can feel like I did something, but it doesn't feel like it's anything major. So we're good to go, and I'll
Yep.
be back at it Monday for the program. But
Good, good, good.
yeah, no, it's and like I said, I'm listen because I had it before. Like I said, I knew exactly what to do and exactly what happened. Um, that the rest of that workout, I just followed Alex around, cheered him on. I was constantly stretching and walking and moving, and like I said, probably a little bit too because now that I'm stronger, since that was 3 years ago when I had it, like my body just recovered better or just handles it better. Who knows? But nothing wrong with being strong. And this is just part of the process, but it's all good.
Is it wrong to be strong?
Hey, you know what? I would rather be strong than weak in any situation, unless
Mm.
it's be so weak that you can't lift your own body weight, but we give you $60 million. In which case, I'd take the $60 million and start getting strong because just
Mhm.
go to the gym, everybody. Just go to the gym. It's better for you.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that was a long talk about how I didn't go to the gym this week and I just did stuff around my house. Um, oh, we should talk hobby after this.
Hmm.
That's right. That's right. Neil, what's your hobby been? And we can discuss maybe this event a little bit in more detail if you have anything else to talk about.
I've actually been doing a lot of hobby lately. My 3D printer is back up and running, and it's literally almost been on fire. I've been using it so
Sure
much.
has. Not for you though.
Not for me, not for me. I've had a lot of generosity from a lot of folks, including the one I'm talking to right now, and it's the way I can give back a little bit, and so I'm going to do so. So But I've been doing that, and then I recently, so after the event, I think I was talking about maybe last podcast about how I've been playing around with lists and everything, and
Hmm.
corn is probably my first AOS love, and
It's how I
so I
know
started
you.
making a list there, and I got the old army out. Now this army is fully painted, so maybe one model.
What? Which
Um,
model?
it's the Lord of Corn on Juggernaut, whom I don't use very often, and he's
That's
got paint on him, but he is not finished.
that's
Um,
understandable, but you could finish him. That's one
yeah,
guy.
yeah,
Yeah,
he can
yeah.
be finished, no problem. But I just need to have a reason to do so. But because I painted this army, what was it? When did AOS come out? 2015, 16, something like that,
I'd say yeah, 15, 16.
somewhere around there.
Yeah,
That's when
15.
I was still kind of going back to the old fantasy days where you would brown rim the models.
Really? I never.
Remember
I
that?
no. I was always
I'm
gold
talking
trim.
old school. Old school went brown trim, like it went goblin green, and then it went to brown. And so I had my all my rims were brown on this corn army, just because
Okay.
it's what I did, and I hate it.
Ah, so you want to read?
I hate it
Okay,
so
okay.
much, and especially since I've been doing black on everything ever since. And so I went back and everything in the army list
Oh,
that
you
I'm
said you
bringing,
said
I've
you
blacked
said
all the rims on it.
you said rims, not trim. I thought you said brown, like trim, not rims. I'm
So
sorry.
yeah, the rims, yeah, the
Okay,
rims
no, no,
around
I
the.
I get that completely.
Yeah,
Because my old fantasy square is all brown, so I carried
yeah,
that into Sigmar for the most part. And
hmm
I think I don't know if maybe I didn't mention it because there was a couple times where we skipped a week. Um, I spent an entire week and I rebate or not rebased. I re-rimmed every single one of my armies that was for Sigmar and 40k to make sure it was black.
yeah.
My fantasy,
I
I'm
just
okay with being brown, but yeah, like especially because like there's all these like universal spells and now the incarnates. It's like
mhm,
I don't want to have to paint the rims just depending on my army's mood. So yeah,
mhm.
black to me is how I'm going forward, except for on
And
fantasy.
it
I'll keep
pops
it
the
brown.
model out. I used to think like, oh well, if it's brown, it's going to look like it just goes the dirt going into the ground on the whatever. It wasn't even playing on mats back then. Back then, it was like
Yeah.
a flock table. So
Which
I
if
still
you
have one
have
of those.
on like my fantasy armies, if you have green flock, it does kind of give you that idea. But
But
I don't use
it's
yeah, but like it's yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Just go
mhm,
black.
yeah. So that's what I did. Did that real quick. 3D printing like crazy.
Yep.
So actually, yeah, a lot of hobby recently.
Yeah, and then preparing for going to Ben's event for that little primer day.
hmm
Like I
hmm
said, that
That's a very recent kind of. Oh yeah, that's happening again. I had to think about it a couple of days ago, and then we went and I saw his pack, which completely changed my
which
2400 point list um for Adepticon. But honestly, I really intrigued by this pack.
yeah, and
And
it's up on there's a maybe if I feel like it, I'll put a link to the pack on the on the on the what's it called description. That's the word on YouTube here. Um, because it's just the Adepticon pack, but like I mean it's open to changes I think for it because of the way the event's structured. But like he
mhm,
definitely like the one thing I did see and like when he was talking to us in the group chat, he's definitely encouraging bring more boys and less toys. I think
mhm,
so. I'm like okay, I get that. You don't want
mhm.
to. Plus, it's also like a sort of like there's the air of hey, don't be a dick.
Yeah,
Like sure, you could
okay.
bring Tyrion and Teclis at this point level and wreck face, but do you need to?
Yeah, and there's something to be said about like, play right out of the box, right out of the book, and no comp and this and that. But I mean, we're talking about eighth edition fantasy that's been around forever. And if you're going to run a major event, like, do we need to see all the same lists we saw 12 years ago? Probably not,
Yeah, and
right?
is
So
this
making those
even
modifications.
comp? Like, I mean, well, the adjustments to like Banner of the World Dragon technically that's comp in a way, but like
Right.
the encouraging through exploration of a pack and the levers
Mhm.
you can pull within it, I don't consider comp.
Yeah.
But like yeah, so like I wouldn't consider what he's doing like it's like 90% not comp, maybe 10% comp. Like it's not like the Swedish comp or anything, but it's him trying to create a fun atmosphere for events. So it
Yeah.
looks fun. I'm hoping to go.
Yeah.
Mentally, I'm not ready that it's like 2 weeks away.
right? I mean, like to me, it still seems like it's far off, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not. And like to be fair, I can't think past this weekend, which I'll get into in my hobby here in a little bit. But
Mhm.
I'm excited. Like I said, I'm thinking about trying to dwarves. I took a I guess is that all your hobby? Do you have anything else actually?
I no, that's it for
Okay,
me.
we'll just go right into mine then, because I got a game in with the dwarf army, um, which I didn't really fully read in my book. The thing with the dwarves I never keep in mind is I know like the dwarf stats and generally what they do, but like unit by unit when they have specific things or what the runes do. So I deployed like an idiot. I was like had too much redundancy over here when I could spread it out across the army with like re-rolling your leadership saves. Like it just dumb mistakes. I didn't really read the book beforehand, so I corrected that after that game was after I lost that game. Um, so I can do another game next week and hopefully be more prepared and kind of restructure the whole concept. Now it's only a 2,400 point list because I don't really have in this army. Like I do have a few name characters, but I usually don't run it for my dwarves. So if I figured if I do this and then I just get an extra 100 points to play with, I'll just bulk up some of the other troops if I like the list the way it is.
Mhm.
Because it's weird. I've been on a dwarf kick out of nowhere. Like
Mhm.
I get it
Yeah.
on occasion. Yeah, because I got my Fire Slayers army on the desk. I've been looking at the old dwarves. I don't know why. It's like I get the mood sometimes. Like I'm an elf player through and through, but every once in a while, like man, I like me some dwarfs. I like give me the dwarting, give me the dwarfs. They're fun to paint up. They're different, but we'll see. And then I mentioned it earlier today in the chat. I realized that my scheme for my Fire Slayers is almost the same scheme as my Caradron Overlords. The primary color is exactly the same. Just the secondary color is going to be different, and because of that, and you put in a good point. Like just make it a unified force in a weird way. So I'm going to base it the same. I
Hmm.
got to rewrite some lore because like in the lore there is the reunification of the dwarves concept that's around. So I'm just going to lean into that,
Hmm.
especially with that new Regiments of Renown coming out with that new Rune Lord and some Depossessed he's with.
Hmm.
I'm hoping those points are enough that I can because both my Fire Slayers list and my Caradron I've got Wreck in the list because it's a dwarf. You got to have the dwarf if you're running a dwarf army in my mind. I'm hoping those points are high enough that I just need to maybe add another hero or like one more unit to each that can bring those in. And if I don't want to run Gotrek, I can run a non-Gotrek version of both those lists with those regiments for known in. So hopefully we'll see what the points are like when it comes out. Hopefully it's makes my life a little easier and I can have a really unified dwarf army.
You can always drop those fire slayers out of a Caradron boat.
Can I?
Still can be done.
Can I? Can I do that? I thought you couldn't do that.
I
Well,
thought, yeah, it's still the same old book, right? I mean, you can thought you could do that in that certain.
it doesn't
Right.
matter because we got a new book announced anyway. We just got to wait and see.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
I
we'll
guess
see
you're
with
right.
that
A
new model.
couple weeks here or something like that.
Yep. That'll be exciting. I'm pick that up. Like I said, and hopefully get me energized to finish the Fire Slayer's army because
Hmm.
now I'm not rushing because I don't need to because I have other hobby going on. Uh, some of my hobby today was very nice, easy. I got my Arcs of Omen Angron book came in today, so I've been reading that. So Neil is a corn lover.
Hmm.
Uh, oh boy, I know it's
Yeah.
40K and like you do your towel and that's it. But oh boy,
Yeah. I don't really. I mean, I technically have a corn demons army.
that's true. But like just the corn battle, like it's this. I should preface it by saying I read the Abaddon book because I'm buying all these because I like narrative. The Abaddon
Hmm.
book felt disjointed, didn't feel structured. It was setting up a lot of stuff. So I was hoping it was like a lot of setup because I was like, hey, it's not really the best. There wasn't a whole ton of pages of lore. It was like, okay, that's fine. It's is what it is.
Hmm.
And this came out, and this is a well structured story. It feels like it's twice as big as the Abaddon one as far as lore pages go. It's it's Corn love. It's you get both sides, but like obviously Corn just wrecking face with Angron and the World Eaters. And I'm
I
like
gotta say,
halfway through it. It's so good.
it's an incredible model. I mean, the model is
Oh, I'm expecting to
real
see
good.
him as a Bloodthirster and Age of Sigmar. maybe like some minor conversions to make it less 40K.
Hmm.
Yeah, but this Angron book, this is phenomenal lore. I'm loving this read, and like I thought I'd read through it like real quick, like the Abaddon one. I'm like halfway through it, so tomorrow morning with coffee,
There you go.
gonna get some more corn going. But my other hobby, why I'm not worrying about these fire slayers right now, is I have more terrain than anyone else in the world. No, that's a lie. Uh, maybe it's a lie. I don't know. I have a ton of terrain that I'm working on for Warhammer Fest and also some for Adepticon, which is some Kill Team and then some Age of Sigmar stuff. And it's a lot. And I've been pushing through it. I got it all built, not today, but the 2 days before. It's been really nice weather out here in Pennsylvania, as long as, uh, with the exception of a chemical cloud that was burned off because both of our governors are stupid and can't handle train derailments.
Oh my God. I used to actually run cross country meets there.
It's
So,
it's it's legitimately between us two.
right.
So which
Yep.
now I guess the benefit is the way the weather goes, it's missing both of us. The way our water supplies go, it doesn't affect either of our but still it's like fucking oh, sorry. I could rant on that one cuz
Yeah.
anyway. uh
Hmm.
so I got it all primed. Which was I'm glad I did because I was thinking it's like I will just prime it there Saturday and get to work on it because this Saturday a bunch of friends and club mates from the barn hours are going to help me and then Dave from Ohio is going to drive down as well. He's been let off the leash because this is the first time I've had so much where I'm like calling calling like hey guys I need some help.
Calling in the reinforcements. Yeah.
Yeah, like could I do this myself? Yes, but it would probably take every day putting in work and I get fed up and there's even more coming that I have to do before Adepticon. So it's
Yeah.
like I would and everyone's offered to help too. So I'm like, why shouldn't I take them up on the offer? We have the plan. It's here. It's easy. We'll get it. Well, honestly, I think we might get this all done in a day or most of
Yeah.
it, and then I'll probably finish it Sunday.
Yeah.
But if I get it all done
Well,
Saturday, there's an RTT in Pittsburgh for Sigmar I might go to. Nice little 3 game. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. It's a lot, but
a wise man told me, rather than get burnt out, you should just ask for help more. So,
yeah, it's interesting because sometimes for me, like when I'm looking at these big projects, because most of these big projects I've always done myself, and sometimes I look at it and it's just the idea of moving it and explaining that it would take so much longer as opposed to me just getting in a groove and going. But that's if
mm,
it's something like the trees. It's doing a couple 250 of the same thing. Like
yeah.
I can get into a
Yeah.
groove and go. Before
Yeah.
that was the Nova L ruins, not L's, but the Azerite ruins. Same thing. I could just go. This,
Hmm.
it's like it's 5 different things of terrain, and like I said, it took me all day, all 2 days to prime it. So I'm glad I called in to help because now it's like okay, we can tackle this all separately. So someone can do the washing here on this color, someone can dry brush on this, and someone can, it's divide and conquer is better for this because like each piece is so individually separate.
Hmm.
There's a little bit of overlap, but yeah, it's a lot. But like I said, it's gonna be good. I'm glad it's gonna get done. I have high hopes we'll get it done this Saturday. Um, and then when I get the other kill team stuff I need to build and paint for Adepticon, thankfully that's the easiest because I could just do it on Sprue. But we'll see, we'll see. But yeah, that's gonna be my life for the next couple days at least. Angron and terrain.
Nice.
So tonight, our main topic, Neil, because we didn't have a set plan for tonight originally. Because you reached out and said, "Hey, what are we talking about tonight?" I said, "I have a few ideas, but nothing concrete. What do you think?" And you said, "Like, oh, I'm thinking about Old World, but it's not really set." And one of mine was Old World. So tonight we're going to talk about Old World.
Hmm.
Got some questions, listener question. Well, maybe not listener questions, just social media questions I put out on Instagram and Twitter. So got a few things there, and then you came up with a great topic to start and kick us off. Do you want to go
Hmm.
and lay out what we're going to be doing?
Well, what I thought we might do is kind of step through the Warhammer 8th edition book and kind of, the different themes, like break it down into movement, psychology, this and that, and kind of take a look at it and say, what are the things we think we want to keep, what are the things we would change, and what are the things we would yeet into the sun. So,
Yes, no, I like it. It's a great idea, and actually, it matches kind of one of the listener questions. Before we go, though, Neil, I have to say, just to preface this, I've only ever played Eighth Edition Fantasy. I didn't play anything prior. Did you play
yeah,
anything before this last
I've
edition?
played fourth edition, sixth edition, and seventh edition.
Hmm. Okay, all right. So you've seen some changes in
I
adaptations.
have now keeping those editions separate in my
Oh,
mind over the
yeah.
20 plus years that I played them. That's a little bit more challenging on what was sixth, what was seventh, because as you saw when I was playing eighth, like I was just like, wait, if you charge, you go first. You guys are like, no. I'm like, no, I'm sure of it.
That was after you started playing 40K, which is you do, which made it even worse. Yeah,
Right.
because the only real edition changes I ever had to work through is 40K, but I was primarily a fantasy player, so I could just like seventh edition 40K came out. I played one game, I didn't like it, so I just stopped playing
Hmm.
until eighth edition, which I liked, and then and then Sigmar I play every edition, and I can't wait for fourth whenever it
Hmm.
comes because this edition's not doing it for me like second did. So it's maybe I'm getting more mature that I'm willing to play an edition I don't necessarily enjoy because the people are so great in this freaking hobby. I love
Hmm.
all of them. Except for that one person. You know who you are.
Hmm. Hate to be that person.
Anyway, so,
So, where would we like to start?
well, okay, 8th edition fantasy. So, let's lay out the basic flow of a turn.
Mhm.
So, obviously, there's no, for anyone who's just maybe a Sigmar listener that never played any of these older editions, there's no priority. So, you roll off to go first, based on scenario, deploy first, you get +1 to your roll. Like, there's a lot of different subtle things, but pretty much you're rolling off to see who goes first, and you just alternate back and forth. That's how the structure of this game works.
Mhm.
So when you start out, you have the movement phase, followed by the magic phase, shooting phase, and close combat phase. Now on the surface, that seems pretty simple, but there's a lot of sub phases within each that make it a little bit more interesting.
Mhm.
So let's see. Starting off with the movement phase, you have to declare charges before you do much else, Neil.
Right.
So
I have to say that I like that. I like the charges come first. I like, and then you have to declare a
because
reaction, right?
keep in mind with the charges if you can't shoot into close combat in this game either.
Correct. Correct.
So what you
You
charge,
can
we're
stand
gonna
and shoot, much like Rain, Hell, and AOS. You can
unleash
stand and
hell,
shoot.
unleash hell.
Unleash Hell.
Right. So yeah, if you're charging somebody in this rank and flank goodness, they can either hold, flee, or stand and shoot. Most will stand and shoot. Occasionally, something will flee if it has an easy chance to rally, or it will hold if it can't do either of those for whatever reason. And it's only a -1. It's not rolling sixes. And the way the charts work on this, stand and shoot's a very powerful tool in this. Unleash Hell, unless
Yeah.
you're doing like mortals on sixes, isn't always the most useful thing. But
I think it's still be pretty useful.
it, it
See,
it can be. But like I
see,
think stand and shoot's a little bit more powerful in this game
it is,
than
and yeah, and well, we'll get to our feelings on it. Why don't we break down each phase and say, keep it, change it, or yeet it into the sun?
sure. Okay, charging first.
Keep it.
I say keep it too. I like it. I think we're gonna both say reactions keep. I do like that in this current edition of Age of
I
Sigmar
will
2.
say stand and shoot. I'd love to change it.
Ooh, okay. Okay, so how would you like to change it?
I'm not sure how I'd like to change it right now, just thinking about it, but I would say that it's as it stands, if it's a unit of goblins shooting you with short bows, it's fine.
Right.
Okay. When it's if choose any unit of wood elves
Yeah, yeah, or
with
even
minus three or whatever it's strength in this game, right?
yeah,
So, but the still can maybe get -3 armor penetration, whatever, which is Ren for you AOS people.
right. And
Um,
and keep in mind, maybe I think we forgot to mention this at the start. We're looking at the get yeet, change, or keep. in context of what we'd like to see carried into Old World. That's why we're considering this an Old World discussion.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
sorry, I forgot to say that
So
up at the very top.
I think stand and shoot needs to be, it can be kept, but I think I would love to see just a real basic rule that kind of limits it severely, like to maybe even just the first rank that's shooting, something like that, something where it's just it's going to do some wounds. It's a little bit of a benefit to the charge reaction because basically it's a hold reaction anyway with a
Right.
bonus,
So
right?
you want it to be
So
more like snapshots as opposed to they're
right,
always aiming all the time. Okay, so you want it to be more like what Sigmar has.
right,
Now, do you
correct.
do
Well,
you,
yeah,
well, okay,
yeah.
so the one difference too
I
with
want it to be dumb, just tempered a little bit.
well, no, here's the
So
thing that because with Sigmar, you do it after you finish moving, whereas in this, you do it before you move on the charge.
yes, and
So,
there is something baked in to Warhammer Fantasy Battles where if you are within the movement range, like your base, I can't remember which unit's movement range, they can't stand and shoot. So if you moved up really close and then they
is it?
took a turn for some reason, just stood there.
Yeah, you have to be. I think you have to be outside of their standard movement.
Right,
Now,
right. So
things like dwarves, that sucks. As I play dwarves right now, movement 3, and they all have dwarf crafted weapons, which means they don't care about the minus to shoot penalty on
yeah,
stand and
right.
shoot. So it's gonna be very nasty.
Right. Yeah, that's the I hate the idea of like me charging in like if you picture like a medieval battle and people are charging some archers with, hordes of heavy cavalry,
Hmm.
those archers are dead a thousand times over. It's never going to
Okay.
work out for the archers. I don't care how many little horses you shoot with arrows. Um, and then like the thing of fantasy battles where it's just like this horse, the entire unit of let's imagine Rohan, just like they turned instead of holding spears, they shot and all the horses were dead. A little bit anticlimactic, right?
I,
I'm
s- I,
like,
s-
what the
I think Neil's had some stories. I think that's where this is at.
it's not even that I have too much. It's just that like I don't know, like I want to charge, like I've set up my army really good, and I want to charge this unit, and I'm like, well, if I do that, I'm just going to be dead. So I don't like that.
Okay. I
I want to be able to charge the things I can charge.
I gotcha. I like it as it is right now, but I'm not opposed to changes to weaken it a little bit more, as long as the goal of that is to temper down shooty armies a little bit as a whole.
Hmm.
Because I mean, yeah, like the wood elves and the dwarves, if when they're shooting you, they're they're gonna shoot you really well. But the one thing is, yeah, you want to get in combat with them to negate their shooting. So I could see that. I could be convinced of that pretty easily.
Hmm.
Now, hold. I don't think anyone's need to say anything about that. Sure, keep it. Flee. I'm a
Hmm.
big fan of flee because
Hmm.
movement in this game is definitely much more interesting as far as it's tight. Like it's tighter. There's more precision. Uh, okay. Maybe it's not more
Flee
interesting. It's more
again for
fascinating to
for
me.
our AOS people, like Flee is a redeploy
Yeah,
with
which I don't
hazardous effects if you're ever caught.
COTS. Yeah, like I don't like redeploy. Like redeploy being just a straight D6 is
It's silly
it's
when
fucking
you roll that
awful.
one like me every single time.
Even if you
Yeah,
roll a 3, like it's like what the hell are you doing? You're wasting a freaking command point. Like it's
right.
like to me it's never it's you I mean unless you have so much command point you don't have to do with and you can just do it for fun or you can redeploy something else in the ways somehow. I don't know, but I hate redeploying to like flee.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it. That's it. And yeah, I don't want to flee off of their movement. I want to flee off of a charge because that's what it's about. So I'm a big fan of keep flee and also put it in AOS but somehow.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I think if you're going to redeploy, you move your units move, right? That's what you should be doing, right? Or maybe half of it. So if you got like unit of cavalry and you want to redeploy, well, they're cavalry, right? They can get
or
around there
or
pretty good.
movement plus D3 or something like just something to get farther away, make the charge harder, but like then you can't use any other command points on them for the rest of the turn. So like okay, so
Right.
I'm fleeing, I might get away, but if you catch me, I'm not going to use all out attack or all out defense. That's my
Yeah.
downside. Like you could do the downside differently than just hey
Mhm.
roll D6 and laugh at your poor dice rolling skills. Like ugh.
Mhm.
I didn't mean that one to become so hot. I like flee a lot. I don't like redeploy. Um,
Yeah.
Okay, so flee we're keeping.
Hmm.
Now here's an interesting thing: redirecting charges. This will be the last thing I think we talk about in movement. So,
Hmm.
because if someone flees, or you can redirect the charge into somebody else, do you like that concept? It's an
I
interesting
like
one
the
for me.
concept. I don't necessarily like the rolling on the leadership test to do it. And the only reason I don't necessarily have anything against that, other than it slows the game down.
Yeah,
Like
the execution is not. I'm exactly with you. I don't like the execution of it. I don't know how to fix it, but I like it. I like it.
I'm anti do a roll for a thing that's probably going to happen anyway.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, unless you're a unit of
So
goblins with no with nothing around to buff your leadership, it's like if I'm a high elf player, there's a very low chance. I don't know. It's probably around like 25% chance that I'm not able to redirect it, and my guys just stand there like idiots.
yeah.
I
Okay.
don't like that. If I want to redirect, I should be able to redirect.
All right. So change. Make it a change.
Hmm.
Now the other thing I maybe there's one more thing with the moving on this as far as the charging goes, because we're still in charging, folks. Tuck in.
Hmm.
Um, because in this game you have to maximize how much after the move, maximize how many opponents can be in combat based upon your moving.
Hmm.
Now that might be a little different from looking at more modern war games where you might just want to tow one person in, so there's not going to be many attacks back, and you can get more attacks in. I like both styles. Both have their, and I could see the usefulness in both game, like a modern game system and in this. I I don't know where I stand on this one, honestly. Where do you stand, Neil?
We're on the redirecting. I'm sorry.
No, no, not redirecting. Maximizing opponents in combat after the
Okay,
charge.
so here's the thing. I read this differently than I think the way some people play it. Okay, the way I've always read this is the maximizing is not a move. It is something you do when you charge,
Right.
based on how I read the rules. You turn the unit so that when you hit it and you close the door, it's going to be maximized when you do that. You don't get close the door and then you get to just shift the whole unit over.
No,
I
no,
don't
that's
like that's not how I read that.
that's correct, but it still does prevent you from maybe doing like a corner to corner on this outside of a few units. If
Yeah,
yeah,
correct,
right,
correct.
right. So like do you want it to be the same? Do you want it to be different? Like so I'm kind of like indifferent on this because I see the benefit of towing in like a combat with like a
Mhm.
unit one model on one model versus the maximizing based upon your charging because you're right, it's not a just you just move to maximize, it's you maximize based upon what you've just rolled
I think you go middle of a unit to middle of a unit, right?
for measuring
So
distance.
for measuring your charge, from the
Okay.
middle of a unit to the middle of that unit, complete the charge, line them up.
Okay.
Done. So
Sounds good
no
to
matter
me.
where you are, if you're on a flank, if you're in the rear, all that kind of stuff, I think that's all good. But let's just and I have more to say on that when we get to regular movement as well.
Well, I
So,
mean, we're gonna get to there. I mean, there's compulsory moves, which is rallying, which obviously keep because we want to have that
mhm.
type of mechanic in this game. I think
Yeah,
I do. I want to keep that type of mechanic,
I want to keep that too.
and obviously other moves, which is random movement, which is fine. That's fun.
Hmm.
Uh, we should probably talk about like moving sideways, backwards, and even marching. So if
So
you move sideways or
here,
backwards, you
so
move half your move rounding up.
I think all the half moves and everything, side to side and backwards, I think that's all fine.
Yep.
I think there should be in a game of ranks and flanks where you're moving blocks of troops, essentially a battle line forward, right? To do a
Right.
maneuver like that should cost you.
Right.
So
That's
I
where you have to
like.
do leadership, have the musician, do swift reforms and such.
Hmm. Um, so I think going forward, though, again, if you're marching, if you're going forward, I think the game is too slow.
Even though
I
you're just
think there's
doing twice your so
I
because
think with like base infantry models, the game is just so slow to slog across the battlefield.
okay.
And
So
so I'd
instead of
like to.
just doing double your movement for a march, which is essentially a run that you'd consider in a modern war game, what would
Mhm.
you do instead?
I just think the movements need to come up.
Oh, just raise everybody up.
Just people need to come up, and then I think when you're measuring your distances, you can wheel however you want. You don't even you don't measure that wheel component. You just measure from the middle of the unit, the middle of the front rank,
Okay.
to wherever you're going, and turn it appropriately.
Would you put a limit on like the amount of degrees you could pivot?
No,
Now,
not
okay.
for
Would you? Okay, because like that kind of takes out like the Swift reform and that sort of stuff where you have to have a leadership test, or is it just for you more? Hey, you have a musician. You've paid the
right.
points to upgrade a musician.
Just do
You
it.
get to do this. Okay, because you're trying to eliminate as many silly or potentially useless rules as possible. Dice rolls.
I want to speed the game up, and honestly, it doesn't run that slow. It's
No,
not
it
that
doesn't.
bad.
It doesn't.
I think a game of Sigmar probably is pretty much on par with fantasy, as long as you have a good base knowledge of the rules and everything.
Right.
Which in this game is sometimes hard to do. But
It's hard to get it going, but once you get it, it's fine.
mhm, yeah. But that's one of the components that I think has always been clunky. I think it's always led to arguments and some
Oh,
consternation across when people start, oh well, they're wheeled this. Oh, you shouldn't have been able to wheel that much, and then you move this much. You got to go back on this. Like that part of it, I think was a little bit of an NP on Warhammer Fantasy through all of the editions.
right.
And I really hate personally, this is a personal thing with all my war games. When somebody questions my movement, because I really am trying to get it right.
Yeah.
If it's something egregious that I'm doing, whatever, I'm fine with being corrected. But I am really trying to like do my pile-ins in AOS, the right 3 inches and everything. To anything that opens up a discussion of, well, I think you moved that model that half an inch too far.
Yeah.
That's to
Yeah.
me, that's
And
like that's aggravating, right?
right. And the movement mechanics in this eighth edition fantasy, there's a lot of potential for that.
Correct.
If more specifically, if you're at a tournament or playing someone you don't know, like
Mhm,
if you're playing beer and pretzels with your friends, like we do, no one
mhm,
cares. It's fine. Just do you.
right.
Unless you're trying to hassle each other, like I do at the mat all the time. Even in Sigmar, like he'll move something, and I'll immediately put down like the 3 inch marker, and I'll be like, like we both know it's 3 inches. He's not trying to cheat. We're just playing quick and being a little lazy. But
Right, right, right.
sometimes you gotta get underneath each other's skin. So,
Mhm,
but yeah, like I said, I don't mind that. It's a good call out of something that hopefully is being looked at, whether they keep it
mhm.
or not. At least look at it.
Right,
Like,
right.
how much do you modernize? Because they will modernize to a point, but they don't want to
And I
modernize
don't
past keeping the feel of the game as it is.
yeah, I don't hate it. It's not something I wanna yeet into the sun, but I'd love a tweak just to simplify it if it's possible, and it's not going to change the overall feel of the game because fortunately or unfortunately, movement in, a ranks and flakes game is probably the most I guess any war game, right? Movement is the most important thing,
Yeah.
right? So, but for the feel of fantasy battles and for the feel of, like I said, that battle line kind of moving forward and shifting around and stuff, you want it to kind of feel the way it currently does. I would just love to have it simplified.
Okay. Movement simplified, I think. Charge first, simplify rest of movement.
Mhm,
All right, I like it. Now we're gonna get into one. I'm curious where we're gonna be because we're both originally high elf players.
mhm,
Next is the magic phase.
mhm,
And I'm gonna say outright, this is my favorite phase of the game. I
mhm.
mean, as a high elf player because I got to play in it so much. I
Yep.
love rolling for the winds of magic. I love trying to
Mhm,
bait out your opponent's dice by rolling for like the crappy spells and seeing who's gonna bite when and where. I love the threat of miscasting. I love the threat of trying to miscast to get the spell off I want and hopefully being able to negate the miscast on some level or just pray I don't go as bad.
mhm,
Every Even to the point of the different spell lores and rolling for the spells at the start of the before the game begins. Every single
mhm.
thing about magic in this game I adore, I love, and I want to keep completely as
Yeah.
is.
I actually 100% agree with you.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Shoot,
as
this is gonna be a
far as
short
the me
podcast if we keep doing this, Neil.
no, no, 100% agree with the mechanics of how the magic phase works. What I think needs to be looked at for a change is just some of the spell effects, right? Some of them are just so game altering,
Oh yeah,
like those number six spells, right?
right,
That
and
can
they're supposed to be
end a game,
powerful. Yeah, yeah, no, that's 100%. Yeah, rewriting the spell lores to not be as abusive, I that's fine with me. Because heck, a dwellers below in certain armies, because you don't get any sort of save against dwellers below. It's a strength
right?
test or fail, and you get in a horde of goblins, and they just all die.
Hmm.
It's like, yeah, that
At least
sucks.
give me a
That's
roll, and on ones that's gone or something like that. I know you're getting a roll anyway, but yeah, I don't know. It's
yeah.
give me some way to survive it.
I'll say I'm fine if you want to like tweak the actual spells themselves to readjust them
Yeah.
to be a more balanced and fun experience. But like,
Hmm. I have.
keep lower attributes, please.
100%. Those
Keep
are awesome.
and like I said, have each wizard choose a spell. You get a spell per wizard level. Have level ones, twos, and fours. Like have
Mhm.
all of that. Have the ability to someone got a 27 on their cast of this spell, but they didn't miscast. You still have a chance to get rid of it on two dice left with double sixes. Like have all of that. Like every
Yeah.
single bit. But yeah, I'm not going to
I
argue. You need to rebalance the spells.
I have one component of the magic phase I want to yeet into the sun.
If you say dispel scroll, I'm going to smack you. I'm going to reach through this
The
microphone and
spell
smack.
scroll.
No,
The spell scroll has got to go. a
no,
hundred
it
percent.
does not need to
Let me
go.
explain myself. Let me
Ugh.
explain myself. It is mechanic that has no interaction. I can't stop it. I can't do a thing about it. You paid the points, you do a thing, and there's nothing I can do about it. The rest of the magic phase, I have a chance, with the exception of irresistible force, which sometimes can have a negative effect for you anyway.
Right.
Um, I can't do a thing about any kind of auto dispels. I think auto dispels are an NPE. It locks me into having one in a list, which maybe I don't want to. I want to spend the points somewhere else, or maybe I want to do something a little bit different with my army. I have to have a dispel scroll in it. Just have to. So I really really hate that
Now let
as
me. lo-
like even a techless in AOS just saying nope, you don't get to do it. Oh, so I don't get to play then. Okay. Like I
See,
hate those rules.
see, to me, I love the dispel scroll because it's once per game. It costs a decent amount of points, not a ton of points. There's
25 points is nothing.
you usually have a
25
tax
points.
of also bringing an extra wizard to carry it because you're not putting on your high level wizard because you want them to have their pretty magic item. So,
Not me, man. I'd rather have the dispel scroll every
well, no,
time.
like I have a level 4
Hmm.
with, and I'll have like my golden crown of whatever or like channel staff or something, and I'm
Hmm.
also bringing a level 1 or a level 2 wizard just to bring the spell scroll. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
scroll caddy,
so like,
which is
right.
silly.
Well, but like I said, that then it's not just 25 points. It's closer to like 100 points
Well,
in
sure,
total.
sure, but now you've taken my list and you forced me to use 125 points of it for this stupid dispel scroll, right?
But there's a to me it's there's such like I've never in fantasy in 8th edition fantasy whenever someone has used a spell scroll against me, I either go wow that was a waste or I go well played because to me the once per game knowing when to use it, when to hold on to it, to me is part of the skill set of Magic in this game.
Hmm.
Now, the silliness of everyone needing to bring one, I'll agree that it is silly, and that's kind of like where this game is. Like you have to bring one. You need to bring one. It's so cheap, just bring one. Even though it's a tax, at least that
Hmm.
wizard can do other stuff along the way.
Yeah.
Um, Usually
And
casting
I'm
fireballs,
I'm just
but
stubborn enough to write lists without one in there because I hate it that much,
which that's
right?
fair. I
But that means I lose.
now let me ask you this. Let's throw out a little idea here for it. What if it was 10 points? And say you could put it on any wizard, just like we weren't worried about magic item level points on. It's just like, hey, any wizard can take this in addition for 10 points, but it only works once per game on a 4+. So you declare you use it, you have to roll 4+, and then it goes off and it's done. Do you
A
want just
four
more?
plus. So you're telling me there's a chance you can fail?
There's a chance I could fail, but
Love it.
I can put it on any wizard.
Hmm.
I don't have to have a caddy for it.
As long as it's not automatic, I love it.
Okay, all right. So like a
I would even give you a 3+ on it.
okay, so you are for change, not yeet, whereas I'm for keep.
I don't know. I think it's still a yeet based on it because that's a complete and utter different change between an auto something happens, and yes, it is a change, but like it's a completely different thing at that point.
Okay, all right. I want to keep. We'll see. Now I think the thing is too, because there is some wizards out there that have it once per game built on their. It's not a war scroll. I don't know what it's called in fantasy. You have army books, but I don't know what the character thing is.
Mhm.
A
I'm
roster. Like, are you still okay with a wizard being like a named character that costs hundreds of
I'm
points, still
more
be able to do
okay
it?
with that.
Because
I'm more okay with it.
there's probably like
Uh,
three in the game that have it. Techless,
Right. Right. That's why, like in AOS,
Croak,
it doesn't bother me that much that Teclis has the auto no thanks, right?
and
Because I'm
then
not
one of
going
the
to play against
Stormcast
Teclis
characters
every
has. Yeah,
time,
the
right?
Stormcast has it too. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. So like if it's here or there, and you might not even be running a Teclis list, So if it's a special character, fine. If it's every army in every game has to have this thing, you know,
Okay,
that
all right.
that's different.
I see the point. I like it though. To me, I consider it part of the Magic phase. Give it to every army for free.
All right. We'll just decide that I've won that one and move on.
Would you, let's cast some spells and find out, sir. All right.
Oh goodness.
And yeah, that I think. I mean, we don't need to go too much into Magic. Like, the one thing I will say is it does drive me a little bit crazy with the Magic phase, and I'm maybe open for a change on this. I should say, is the types of spells and how and where and when you can cast them. Because
Yeah.
yeah, like I wish my wizard, the unit they're in, is in combat. I wish I could cast like a magic missile into the unit I'm in combat with, as opposed to only being able to do hexes and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
to
It's
me
kind
that
of silly.
that would be a change for me. I guess I should say, not wholesale, but like that's I get not wanting to summon a giant fireball next to my unit while you're there, but
Uh-huh.
I should still be able to do some basic damage to you. But anyway,
Right.
now we can go into the shooting. So I'm curious where we're going to land on some of this stuff. So shooting is I like the way the shooting is structured, where you have first rank, second rank. Some like at high elves get third rank, and then you get half the rest. Some just get first, second, and then half the rest. Because you're kind of like
Mhm.
doing a volley shot. It's kind of like they're all shooting, but the ones in the back can't see. They're shooting off what they think is the arc of the guys in front of them and guessing. I like that.
Mhm.
Um, I also really like the way cannons work. I
Oof.
I, I like the way cannons work to a point, I should say. Like I said, let's leave our war machines separate. Standard
Yeah.
shooting. Your blocks of guys shooting stuff. I mean, if they move, you have a -1 because you have a chart based upon your ballistic skill. You go up and down from there, plus and minus.
Hmm.
I like it that I don't like the long range, but I do like if you move, you have a -1. The long range thing is always just like because once again, it takes so long to get close to people that I feel
Hmm.
like shooting doesn't do much in the first two rounds.
Yeah.
Where do you stand generally on shooting?
I like it. I like the ballistic skill chart. I
Yes.
think sometimes with some things there is a tendency for shooting, and I think for fairly good reason too, um, is a little bit lackluster. Like elven bows, right? You read the lore about elven bows and the silver arrows doing this and that and the other. And in the game, you get what, a wound. All right, that's good. Like it could,
Yeah. Unless
because you're at long range and you moved and this and that and the other, and before you know it, you're at fives and then
see,
fours.
I kind of get you. There's haves and have nots for shooting,
Right. Uh,
but the cautionary
this
tale is carriage on overlords
Right.
in
That's
Sigmar
always
that
the problem with shooting.
just
Like to
fucking
me,
suck.
to me anything, especially historically, right? The longbow like basically revolutionized medieval warfare because of how far it could shoot, and it would punch through armor, right?
Yeah.
So why am my high elven longbow bows? Why are they strength 3 and not doing any kind of armor piercing anything? Well, probably because if they did, you would have nothing but an army of archers, right?
True.
Um, that's but that hasn't stopped that from happening in some other armies. Yeah, I think it's okay as it is. I really do. Maybe what you could do is instead of increasing the power of the shots, give me some more range. And my older brother actually, I was playing fantasy way back when, and my older brother who did not play war games, but he's an engineer and he likes his physics and everything.
Yep.
He goes, "You've got those archers standing on a hill. Why don't they shoot farther?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's just like, "Well, if they're higher up, their arrows would go farther."
Well, we need to roll for the win
And I'm like,
too before the game begins. Who has the win at their back? Who doesn't?
I'm like, well, that's actually true. They should shoot farther if
They
they're up
should.
on the damn hill.
Yep.
Like I think the ranges could increase a little bit, and
I,
that would be okay.
to be honest, because like the one thing I don't like is the long range -1 to shoot. But if my range was increased, like if my longbows went from 30 inches
Right.
to 40
Yeah.
inches, and you still want to
Hmm.
give me the -1 for long range, I'd be okay with that because I would be getting shots. I'd be getting more shots at the start, and they would get better
Hmm.
as they go as normal, but instead of just being very useless for a turn or two at
Yeah.
most. So
You look at like some
I'm okay.
goblins
Yeah.
with some short bows, and they got a 16-inch range, and to be at short range, they need to be 8 inches away. Well, bye bye, a unit of goblins. And I,
Yeah, where are they shooting? They're the squigs they just released out of themselves.
I know, right? It's kind of silly.
Yeah.
Get some longer range. I think
Well, like I
that's
said,
that's
like,
my change
and
there.
here's the thing: we're not diving into specific. I will mention armies like the we'll mention dwarves, we'll mention high elves, we'll mention wood elves, like that. All this stuff that we know. Like, we don't want to talk about how you would change the shooting in wood elves because that's a very different discussion.
Mhm.
But yeah, I like that. Like, increased range, or even just increased range based upon if you're on a hill or not. Even it's just something like
Yeah,
I'm fine with that.
yeah.
That'd be more fun.
Hmm.
Let's see. I don't know if there's much else to talk about with shooting. Really, that's
I think shootings, yeah. Outside of going into war machines,
oh yeah,
you
war
want to do
machines.
that right now?
Yeah, let's do it. Cause like, here's the thing: I love shooting war machines. They feel so good. You do
Hmm.
that. You do the 6 or 8 inches from the back, maybe even 4. Depends on how you're feeling. Back of this unit, back of this model. Cause you pick your point. Part of me wishes it's weird because I want there to be a. It feels like it's easier to almost guarantee that you're going to at least hit one thing.
Hmm.
I'm not sure. I want to change, but I don't want too much of a change. Like I don't want it to be a guaranteed shot, but I don't want it to be so random, and I don't want it to be that you have to guess inches because that's silly too.
Here's my thing with a cannonball. Okay, if you were actually firing a cannonball at something flying in the air, your chances of hitting that thing very, very slim. It's almost never gonna happen. You're trying to shoot this eagle that's flying
Well,
around at God knows
that's
how what
actually
speed.
that's kind of going back into movement with flyers because the flyers technically land when they're done
Land,
moving briefly. So
and
like, that's
that's
a
fine for I think as far as the movement portion of that, that's fine to think of it that way, right? But if you're shooting something that has fly, okay, to me, if I want to shoot my
you
cannon
want
at
another
that,
like you want more
before you can
randomness.
even shoot it, okay, you got to roll a dice, all right, and you
No,
got to roll like a 5 up.
actually, I wouldn't even say that. I'd say that you could shoot it just fine, but everything that has flying against artillery gets like a 5 up ward.
I would even go lower than that. I mean, it's or higher than that. I'd go
I would
3 up.
for the structure of the game I wouldn't go higher than that. I'd say even 5 might be pushing it a little bit just for the structure of the game because there's not a ton of flyers around now.
Well, there's not a ton of flyers around because there's cannons.
I say maybe that means you need to increase the points of cannons or limit how many you can take. So sure, like that's a there's a nuance in there, but
You got
I
you
get your
got
reasoning.
a you got an ogre cannon, strength 10, that just basically has a 90% chance that it's taken out whatever it hits.
Hey, my dwarf cannons can do that too. They just can't move as far.
See, to me, like it's if I want to have fun in this game of fantasy where I have big dragons, which is the toys that I want to play with. I want to play with my big dragon. I want to play with my guy on my griffin. If he gets shot turn 1 and the griffin's dead, that's not fun.
Here's the
You
thing
know,
I don't
I
like.
understand there needs to be a little bit of counters to some of these things,
Right.
but that's not it. That shouldn't,
He,
because thematically, I can't wrap my mind around why that cannonball is flying up in the air to hit him. I understand that on the game he's supposed to be on the ground for God knows whatever reason,
yeah.
um, but I there's got to be another way, right?
Here's the thing. Here's one change I would love because I don't like this. Because if you get certain armies to go together, because artillery is such long range, your first turn is going to be an artillery shootout against other artillery. Because if you can take out their artillery or your artillery, you're going to be ahead in the game. I
Right.
wish I wish artillery couldn't target artillery unless that artillery was mounted on something. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's being pulled by a beast. It's on the back
I
of
just
this
think
thing.
if you're
But like
shooting a
if you're
single model, you have to have a big penalty to that. If you're shooting a big block of unit, because again, think of this in terms of like, here's one cannon on a hill, and here's 10,000 troops sprawled out. And
yeah
then there's another cannon on the hill on the other side. What's easier to hit, right? The thousands of guys in front of you, or the one cannon on the hill, right?
yeah. Because
Or especially the one flying animal in the air.
how many like marshals and generals and stuff, were killed by cannons. They weren't afraid of the cannonballs because they weren't being aimed at them because it's like you can't snipe with them. So yeah,
Right.
I could yeah, unable to shoot at individual targets would be a good change. I think there needs to be a change to war
And I
machines,
won't
but
even
I
get to that.
like
Like,
them.
you have to roll a 4 up or something, right? You got a 50-50 shot of being able to do it. And that would be enough for me to not want to waste my cannonball shot,
Oh, absolutely.
potentially. Or maybe I'm trying to go for the gold and, hell, like this 50-50 shot is worth it to me. I'm going to try and shoot it.
Yeah,
You
but
know?
like definitely like I want artillery to be there. But yeah, like because hell, and like if a cannonball hits you, I don't care what you are. If I hit you with it, you should probably just die.
Right.
Yeah, like that.
It's,
Sorry, it's just
it's
how it
true.
is.
100%. And I think that's why their strength, God knows
Strength 10,
whatever
yeah,
and
strength
everything. And
10.
I think that's appropriate. It's just like you gotta make it a little bit harder to. I mean, you're not shooting a, 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 a 2023 sniper rifle here. We
Yeah.
this is a ye olde cannon, okay?
Yeah. Got some kickback. It's being loaded by drunk dwarves or drunk humans.
Yeah, you're not scoping that thing out of the sky. Come on now. I don't know.
And maybe if you have a dwarf or a human engineer, you can get like a +1 to that roll. Sure.
Sure.
That's
Hmm.
fine. Um okay. So let's change some more machines. Like stone throwers I think are okay cuz they scatter away. Oh, that's the other thing. I,
Hmm.
I like the scatter dice and templates in this game. Keep them, please.
I do too.
Um
That's a keep for sure.
yeah,
100%.
bolt throwers are fine as they are. I like how they go through ranks and they get weaker as they keep continuing through, or they can be blocked and it's just done.
Hmm.
Stone throwers are good. Yeah, I like the other war machines. I think they're perfectly fine. Just an adjustment for cannons.
One change though with templates is if you have your template over top of a unit and anybody argues that there's a single guy that's either in or out, you should be able to take your template and slap him across the face with it.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Are we in agreement with that?
I'm 100% agreement with that.
Perfect.
All right, close combat. So there's a lot. Once again, there's a lot more nuance. So with close combat, just a quick rundown. You've charged in one or multiple units. It's close combat. Whoever's turn it is decides which combat they are going to work through first. You work through that combat completely, um, including to see if the unit runs away, break test, all that sort of stuff, and then you go on to the next. And combat isn't if you charge, you go first. It's always down to initiative, or if you have there's always strikes first and always strikes last, and stuff like that going on. So, Neil, I'll let you start. What do you think of combat generally, as a whole, functions in this game? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you want to change?
It's a keep for me. I don't really have a problem with it at all. I can't think of anything offhand that I hate. Some of like the monstrous infantry and stuff, I think can get a little out of whack, a little bit over the
Yeah,
top.
monsters infantry on the second rank getting up to 3 attacks as opposed to one
That's
for everybody else. It
that's got to get dialed down. I think a little
I
bit.
think I think just the two. I agree it needs to be more because it's bigger bases, it's less models, but three is just
Right.
it can be
That's
overwhelming too
devastating.
quickly.
Yep.
Now, granted, most of those things like ogres are going to be very slow initiative. So and it does come down to like, are you putting the right unit into the right thing, or did you get called out and you just have to kind of eat it as it goes? Like as an elf player going in, I never worry about monsters infantry because I'm always going first. As a dwarf, ogres coming to me. I'm like, I hope I have the right unit in front of the right things, because if I don't, and I can't survive what they're about to do to me, an extra 9 attacks coming in could be pretty devastating. So
Yeah.
I think that could be dialed down to 2 and still be okay.
Hmm.
I like Stomp. I like Thunder Stomp. I like Fear. I like Terror.
Hmm.
Um, I
I think
think I think you could
I
do a
think
change to
cavalry
Fear.
needs a little bit of beefing up in the combat phase. I do like the changes that Ben made, given heavy cavalry stomp one.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that's fine.
that's really cool. I think that gives them maybe just that little bit of extra that does that little bit more that I think kind of makes them maybe a little bit more worth their points.
Honestly,
So
I would even be standard cavalry gets D3 stomps and heavy cavalry gets D6 stomps.
I think yeah,
I like
yeah.
I, like
You
because
got
like
it.
it's
At least
random.
on the charge, at least
Just yeah, oh yeah, just on the charge, because like that's when it's
Mhm.
impactful. Because like the
Right.
horses aren't. I mean, they always do work, but like they're never like hitting for a lot. But they're gonna be the ones doing the stomp essentially, because they're running over you. Like, let's
Yeah.
be honest.
And he gave all the horses strength 4, which I think is better as well. Like this is a horse we're talking about.
Yeah,
When's the
it's
last
true.
time you stood next to a horse and went, that's as strong as me?
I've stunted lots of horses, and let me tell you, I never think for a second that I could take one of them.
I mean
I I
that
become
thing is
friends with
going
them
to
for
kick
a
you through
reason.
your chest.
Oh God,
That's
yeah. Oh yeah.
so
Uh
I think that's a smart move there too.
yeah, increase the strength. I think that's fine. Even if you make their weapons go worse, that's fine. Like,
Hmm.
sure, whatever. I guess
Sure.
I want horses
Mhm.
to be random, because whenever they pop off and kill something valuable, it's always fun. But yeah, I'd like cavalry to have some sort of a stomp mechanic.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I like the always strikes first, always strikes last in this game, because there's a lot of play with it. It's extra levers to pull, and I'm also an elf player, so get fucked, everybody.
Mhm.
Combat results. One
I like it.
I do
I don't know
too.
how to change a thing about this.
There's one change I would make. Because whenever if you lose the combat result and you flee, your standard's gone. Like, you still have like this that guy just dies. You still have the model there per se, but the standard dies. I wish if you rallied, you pick the standard back up. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah.
Like, you're running, obviously they're not worried about it, but like if you rally, like someone else goes like, "Fuck you, I'm taking it now, you wuss," and picks it back up.
Yeah, I don't like the drop in the standard thing.
Yeah,
I think you carry it and you book it as fast as you can. Hell, you just marched all the way down there. You should be able to run the opposite
yeah,
way too,
yeah. That's honestly my only thing. I like
Mhm.
the people can
Plus,
attempt to
that's a
charge.
complication that probably doesn't need to be there, right?
Yeah,
Get rid
because
of that.
it's, well, now I think it can make arguments. I've seen it. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, like the ability to run down your opponent and just take them off if you beat their roll, if they're breaking. Uh, I wish if you didn't have like the frenzy special roll or something like that, that you could just choose to not overrun as opposed to have to do a leadership to not overrun.
Mm. Yeah, that's another one of those kind of silly
Yeah, it's just
tests
like
right
it's. I
there.
don't
I don't
think
know.
you need it. Like, if you're
Frenzy,
frenzy, I get.
frenzy though, I feel like needs to have a drawback, right? I mean,
Yeah, frenzy does, because like it's pretty good.
hmm
And I don't mind frenzy as a rule either, like even within movement where you have leadership to not charge, but like, yeah, I like close combat as it is outside of the banner thing. Um,
yeah, yeah. I could get on board with you there.
right. I like the flow back and forth. And because there's a skill set to deciding which combats to do first,
Right.
because this breaks, then that might break. You can overrun with this. So
Or just play elves.
yeah, or just play elves. That's all you do.
And so I guess one of the list or one of the questions was, what do you want to keep or what do you like between the different editions? So again, like I was in the older versions, if you charged, you went first, right? When you did play elves, elves were always high initiative, and that was how they kind of they said, oh well, they've got high initiative and high weapon skill, and that makes up for their toughness 3. Well, it didn't.
Not if you're getting attacked
No,
first. No.
not in the old game before always strikes first and all this. I like the initiative going first. The fact that you're going to hit first based on your initiative. I like this actually in eighth edition more than I like the charges go first
Now, do
thing.
you like always strikes first, always strikes last? Or
I
would you
do.
rather or would you rather see that not necessarily go first. It just allows you to do a reroll on the hit.
Um, I actually like the go first better than I like the reroll.
Oh,
If I saw
the
something go
reroll's
away,
fantastic.
well, the reroll's fantastic. I'm not going to get rid of it. I love it. I'm going to
Yeah.
keep it as long as I. But I think I think people would be less cranky about it without that reroll
Oh yeah, because I mean, sword mat. Like, and the other thing
because
too,
you're
like,
already going first. You're already hammering them pretty hard after they charged you, for God's sakes.
right,
And now you're going to reroll.
and always strikes first, even if you have a great weapon, because great weapons give you always strikes last. But if you have both of
Mhm.
them, it means you strike at initiative, but it was FAQ'd or that you still get the rerolls. Like, I think that FAQ is probably inappropriate because being sword masters with rerolls is ridiculous.
Right. They're really good. Really good. So,
And also, the other
yeah.
thing with combat, I think we haven't really mentioned because like you can because different units have different things. So like you have halberds, you have hand weapons, you have shields, you have great weapons. I love all of that nuance. I like that if you have a hand weapon and shield, you also get a 6-up parry save, which is
Yep.
essentially a ward. I like that if you have
Hmm.
halberd, you're gonna get the a little bit extra
Strength.
damage, strength on it, but
Armor piercing. Yep.
yeah, and you'll get, or but not as much as if you had a great weapon. But you'll get your access to always strikes first with it, or striking off your initiative. 'Cause the halberd doesn't give you always strikes last; just the great weapon does. So I like the
Right.
nuance of that a lot, and I hope that does come. I can't see that changing. That would be a big departure.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to see that change at all.
Now,
Um,
but you kind of started it, and we've reached the end of the turn. So yeah, the questions we had. Let's start with the Twitter one first, because you mentioned it. What would you like to keep? What would you like to jettison? Obviously, we just kind of like went through that in general for Eighth Edition. Now, I only have Eighth Edition in my heart. I have the books for seventh, I think, maybe sixth.
ooh,
But what do you think, Neil? You'd be the one to be able to answer this better about what you'd like to keep or
well,
jettison.
there is one very big thing that we didn't talk about, and that is challenges.
Oh, you're right. We did kind of gloss over that.
Unfortunately, I feel like challenges have too big of a role in the outcomes of combats.
I think they do only because of overkill, which is for the people listening at home. So if you're going to challenge, just those two characters are going to fight. Now, the only people that can issue challenges are heroes, lords, or champions within a unit, which is an upgrade to a unit. Now, typically, if you have a character you want to protect, you put a champion in the unit. He accepts the first challenge, so your wizard doesn't get splatted by his combat unit that somehow got in combat with you.
Mhm.
I like challenges, but I don't like overkill being because if someone has very killy and they kill your champion, which is usually a 1 wound character or 1 wound model, but then they do 7 wounds, they'll get a total of 5 because you capped 5 plus 5 to their combat resolution because you just butchered this person. I think that cap
Mhm.
is too much. I think the cap should be 3.
Yeah, that sounds
Um,
fair.
3, or maybe even something where it's just 1 plus the wound characteristic of the model slain. Because like there's if you kill an
Yeah,
ogre, they're 3 anyway, so it's like maybe 4 for them.
yeah,
As
right. If you kill my champion, right, in my unit, that's one wound. Like, and it was a
or
total mismatch anyway. Like with some giant like ogre is like
yeah,
like that
because
guy
like
walks up to the challenge and gets splatted. I feel like I'd like, yeah, I kind of expected that. I'm
yeah,
not going to just run the other way.
and I think everybody would too. They'd be like that guy's sacrificing himself so he can protect this named character. So maybe it's like, okay, if you have a lord, um, it's +3. If you have a hero, it's +2. And if any champions are just whatever, they're just one. They just count
Yeah,
as one. It's one model. Um,
yeah.
yeah, but
That way
like
you can accept with some lower like because yeah, I think sometimes the challenges are issued in order to hamstring the unit's effectiveness, right?
right.
Instead of it being more of a thematic thing, it's being used to win your combat instead of it, actually feeling like it's a duel between two general type characters.
Right, which it's good and bad because like I said, sometimes it's fun where like if it's your turn, you have to issue the challenge. You choose who you issue it with. So
Mhm.
you're gonna issue it with your most killy character, but it's like, okay, would you accept it with your defensive character or just this champion? But I still don't mind the nuance of that. I just don't like overkill. So a little
Yeah.
bit of split there. You want to go a little farther changing than I do.
Mhm.
But that's a good call. But yeah, just generally, for the other editions that you have in your head, any rules you'd like to add or jettison possibly to bring over into
No,
old world?
what I will say is some of the older versions, if you went way back when, that you have to be kind of careful with. And I think the most recent versions of Warhammer did this really well was protect against what we used to affectionately call Hero Hammer. So for fourth
Yeah,
edition and probably fifth edition as well, um, was basically the troops were adjunct to the
yeah,
heroes. The heroes were so good that that was really the beef of your army, and the other guys were there just to die
right.
and fill up your dead pile. So I'd never want to go back to that. That can
Well,
stay in the past,
I mean, the
ladies.
alternative of the eighth is like you can kind of get the Death Star builds popping up
Yeah,
as
but
a
I will
counterpoint.
say that the magic phase does have a good counter to that.
True, very true.
And I think that that is why some of those spells are as powerful as they are. And I think those spells need to stay in the game to dissuade that a little bit. Because if you're going to run one giant block of ogres, and I can wipe that out with one spell, you might not want to run one giant block of
Block of
ogres.
ogres. Yeah.
Of course, if you can use a dispel scroll and just make sure that that giant block of ogres can go wherever it wants, then well,
Okay.
whatever.
Oh, that's a good.
Um,
Hey, I see the callback, and I see you trying to convince me, and it's I see that. I see what you're doing.
Talking sense.
Okay. Okay. Anything else come to mind real quick?
Yeah. So Warhammer Fantasy as opposed to AOS, right? Okay, you get your one artifact in AOS, but you're building your character in fantasy more. Every item that you put on is worth a set amount of points and all that kind of stuff, which I love.
And
I just
I
don't want
even
to see.
I kit bashed multiple character in my high elf army specifically. I have a character kit bashed with each magic item, like Cloak of
Mhm,
Beards, the Golden Crown, the Reaver
100%.
Bow,
Yeah.
everything.
Yep.
So yeah, I like the way you can build up and do multiple items to a points limit based upon the unit. Um,
What?
I
And I
like
don't
I,
know.
I like that units can take magic standards in this too because I
Mhm,
love magic standards. It's just it feels like you have like a veteran unit. Like
mhm.
you're not gonna give that banner to nobodies. These are the ones that have done well for you. Like it's yeah.
Yeah. What I will say is I think it was maybe either sixth, I can't remember if it was sixth or seventh, the Dark Elves were able to build an unkillable lord on Pegasus. And he
Yeah,
would fly around
I could still do that in eighth to a point.
to a point like that shouldn't be a thing. One of the things I loved about first edition AOS, now this has since gone away. Okay.
It's
But
way
first
back.
edition AOS, and one of the things that like when AOS came out, I was very excited to play AOS as a man who played fantasy for 20 years, right? And the reason was I felt like anything could kill anything
Okay.
because most things, like there were very few things in beginning AOS that had a 3-up save.
Yep.
Most stuff was on a 4.
Yep.
I could use my unit of spearmen. I could take down that dragon if I had enough of them,
Yep.
you know. Um, which it's like the ants, marching up and killing something by numbers, that's much bigger, right?
Yep.
Um, that I liked. I do not like when I feel like I don't have an answer to something on a battlefield.
Yeah, especially too when it's like, I mean, current AOS, there's so much rend going around that
Hmm.
the reason I like playing Daughters of Cain even more so right now is because I at least always have that 6-up ward. Because
Yeah,
most armies I'm going to take, like, people are going to outrend me anyway, and it just doesn't feel fun.
right.
So,
Mhm.
like when it's too high, but like I said, second was perfect. Oh,
Right.
mwah, perfect
Yeah.
edition,
There
second edition.
was to get Ren 2 in first edition AOS was like something else,
Oh, well, that's why I mean the club you run is called Ren 4 because that was a
because
pipe dream. They're like,
yeah, that
no,
was impossible. That was impossible at the time.
right. And then I remember when there was a first, like there was a way to do it. Like I think it was Daughters of Cain. They could hit it, but like
Yeah.
everything had to align. And it was just like
Uh-huh.
crazy and like if you're doing run 4, like you were probably wasting something because you only needed run 3 to get through their armor anyway. So,
Right,
um,
which is why mortal wounds existed anyway, so that like you could
exactly,
just right.
yeah. But okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
So that
that's pretty
question.
much it though. Yeah.
And that question was brought to us by Primal Amnesia 82 on Twitter. He did have
Hmm.
another option thing too that he asked us, which is kind of interesting. And this could be a whole podcast, so like we'll dive into this a little bit. Um, would having the old world survive in a post-apocalyptic state have been a more or less interesting backdrop for rules and background overhaul that they had in mind post Warhammer Fantasy Battles? So we can maybe separate that out into two things: a somehow surviving whatever's left old world to carry on as a story and setting versus that's how the rules would interact with it per se. Like what do you like thoughts? What's your
Uh,
thoughts?
no, I'm I'm fine. The old world's blown up. It's fine. I can go back and I can play. I can go play a game of historicals and understand that we now have tanks, right?
Right.
That thing's ended. All right, that doesn't happen anymore.
Yep.
That era of history is gone, right? So I can go back and I can play a game in that era of history. And actually, I love the fact that in Old World they're pushing the timeline back
Right.
because now I feel like I can sandbox with it even more and explore an era that I've never explored before, right? Or maybe loosely read the lore of.
Yeah, and
But
there's not a ton of lore for that section, but we'll get into that after this.
mhm.
I there's always the concept like it's like the whole Marvel what if. Like the
Right.
what if ideas are always fascinating. Now we're setting Ninth
Mhm.
Age aside because that community was awful as an Age of Sigmar player.
Mhm.
And I really don't like the rule set they developed. It wasn't for me. If you had fun with it, God bless you, but nah. Um, the concept of a surviving world would be interesting to me, but
Mhm.
not for rules of gaming. Because if I wanted to see crazy post apocalyptic, because when we read the last 5 pages of the end times, that didn't just happen instantly. Like that was the apocalypse happening. The characters we were following died instantly because they were at the epicenter of that nuke of the chaos implosion thing happening. Um,
Mhm.
so everyone else, like you saw the last couple pages, like just crazy, crazy shit happening. I think you could probably do some sort of like, I mean, hell, you could take Age of Sigmar. So let's say like, okay, let AOS 1.0. Um, maybe this is why it was so crazy. You could take like a battle pack that's super crazy and post-apocalyptic within the time of the world actually ending, and that would satisfy the need for that. And it wouldn't have to be a oh we actually made the old world survive because like it's gone instead. It had its swan song out. I'm okay with that, and I love
Mhm.
that story. I wouldn't
And
mind. I wouldn't
it's
mind like exploring specifically like those very final days, and maybe it's turns into a skirmish type thing. I think
yeah,
that would be kind of fun to see more detail on those last days. Obviously, they're not. Maybe not going to, but like, that would be super fascinating to me.
yeah. And it's okay that the bad guys won. It's
Yeah,
okay,
I
right?
mean,
We
yeah,
all played the armies, right? And it's kind of better that the bad because like at a certain point you feel like you're destined to lose if you're playing the bad guys, right? Like oh the good guys are going to win, so we can keep playing this game,
yeah, no,
And now you play chaos, and you got it, in the back of your head. Well, we win,
no.
you
It's
know,
here's the
and
interesting
it
thing too that you could look at. And I talked to my one buddy Tom at my local club about this, and also then this is gonna be I've been delaying this shout out. That Val, uh, who also has a question for us. He's on the Honest Wargamer every Thursday. They're doing a Road to the Old World podcast because Val's a big uh, uh, fantasy nut. Val Heffelfinger, so follow him, and then check out that show every Thursday. But he brought this up too. So there actually is a multiverse in Warhammer Fantasy. Did you or were you aware of this, Neil?
multiverse in Warhammer Fantasy. Explain this and let me know. Let me try and figure out if I am aware of this.
Okay, so they're actually now obviously GW has said this is the path. I mean they technically retconned, like because there's actually three different there's three divergent paths for the Warhammer the Old World. There's the end times that we had where everything blew up. Chaos One, Archeon did it. Now we have Age of Sigmar, right?
Hmm. Right.
There was the retcon Storm of Chaos, which was the original end times, where the good guys actually won and things continued. That was the first
Correct.
attempt before they retcon it. So that's the first divergence. Third divergence.
By the way,
But
by the way, imagine for a minute. Go on a little imagination ride with
okay,
me.
all right,
Imagine for you played in this, which by the way, I was playing in that original 2006 Storm of Chaos.
yeah.
Um, Imagine if Chaos wins and they're like, "Well, guys, sorry you played in this, but because the bad guys won, we're not. The game's done."
Oh my god.
Imagine,
I mean, at the
imagine,
time,
like,
yeah,
"Well,
yeah.
Chaos won. We're done with fantasy."
All right, everyone go buy 40K armies now.
Oh my God! If you think you'd have seen one army burnt, you would have
Oh,
seen nerds lighting stuff on fire in the
they
streets.
wouldn't light
All
themselves
right,
on fire with
they've
it.
been in jail. Like they're
National crisis out of the UK.
oh my God, that'd have been hilarious in the worst way.
It would have been. You're right. Okay, so there's the two divergent paths. The end times that we have, Storm of Chaos, which was technically, and technically it was retconned, I guess you
It
could
was,
say. But
yeah,
you could also
100%.
look at it as this is a divergent path. This is a what if. And the third is the story from Warhammer Online Age of Reckoning. Because the leader essentially, they didn't have Archeon, they had this Zinch guy who's leading it, and like the Dark Elves worked with him, the Orcs worked with them. So it was a very different structure. So there actually is three different essentially paths of the Warhammer Fantasy setting. Now the true path, the main timeline, is the Age of Sigmar one. But the other two are kind of interesting, and like it wouldn't be like it wouldn't be unfun if GW did like a one-off supplement for both of those and said, "Hey,
Mm.
just for fun, even if it's just a narrative thing, just for fun. Here, here's how this continued from this one." I don't know.
Yeah,
Like it wouldn't hurt anything. It's like, hey, like this is the true like because like Old World too, like obviously Old World, like we're the Old World setting is on the path of the true story, which is the end times the world gets blown up. They've stated that outright. But doesn't mean the other two
mhm.
can't be fun. And hey, as if you're a lore writer like me and have fun, explore those other options. Have fun with it. Why not? It's your hobby.
And to me, I know, like, I'm a Warhammer Fantasy Reddit and everybody, and people are still so butthurt about the world blowing up. And God bless you. I know that was your game. I know you don't have anything to do with AOS, and I know how long your neck beard is.
Yeah.
Just let it go, man. Just let it go.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
like I said, yeah, like suck it up, Buttercups.
Right.
Because like here's the other thing too. You and I fully into Age of Sigmar. Love Age of
Right.
Sigmar. Obviously, the current edition isn't our favorite, but we still I'm thinking about going to an RTT and playing 3 games Sunday. I still love this
Yeah.
game. Like
Yeah,
there's no
I
question.
love the game too. I have like I will all like I thought like I went on Big M's, I don't know, year and a
Yeah.
half ago when this was first announced. They asked me if I was interested, and I was like, nah, right? I didn't even realize just how much I still cling and love the old world stuff. And it
Hey,
took me playing 8th edition again and you showing me how much I
that's
love it.
that's
Um,
that's the
for that to
benefit of
come
having
back.
me as a friend because I
That's it,
push
for
my
it to
shit
come back.
onto all my friends whether they
Yeah.
like it or not.
But at the same time, I can still be okay with the fact that it blew up and it moved on
Well, yeah,
to
that
something at a
yeah.
certain point in the timeline. It's
I
fine.
love Age of Sigmar and what it has given me in my life, and as far as creativity and story. And I'm never gonna stop supporting Age of Sigmar, but I can accept the ending that happened because I loved it. I thought it was a good ending, for the climactic level of it, and I can still go back and play this game because I do.
Right,
Like it's like
right.
just yeah, but regardless,
Now you're gonna get a whole new game. So just
yeah, just
take a
relax.
breath. Everything's gonna be
Okay,
fine.
so our friend Val Heffelfinger, like I said, every Thursday he's on the Honest Wargamer channel. They call it the Road to the Old World. You can watch the old episodes. He deep dives into the timeline. He's very knowledgeable about Warhammer Fantasy Battles. Like I said, him and I bonded over talking about it on a lot of ways. And I hope to get a game in with him at some point. It's fun to listen to, so definitely tune into that. He's also, if you listen to the latest one that came out today as of recording, so today is the 16th. Yeah, 16th.
Mhm.
So check out the stream from the 16th. He had a nice announcement. He's running an event. I'll leave it to that. Go look it up. But Val asked why we're even doing this type of questioning because Val has already used up all the oxygen of it. Which I responded to this already, and I said I just want to breathe in the same oxygen that he breathed. So that's why we're talking about Old World.
Mhm.
But he's a delightful human. But that was a little bit of fun there. But onto the Instagram questions. Oh no, it just went away. Oh no. Okay. So from lowkey44 on Instagram, thoughts on how much GW will support and facilitate utilizing old armies or only the new hotness? So now we're getting full speculation mode right now.
Oh boy, yeah,
Now,
tinfoil hat stuff.
yeah, which is fun because like I need to preface this too because I did play testing, I do work for the company. I know absolutely nothing about this. I have chosen to remain ignorant. I've chosen not that I was even offered any knowledge on this, but even past that, I chose that even if someone said, "Hey, are you interested?" I'd be like, probably no, because I like the surprise of this. I like being able to just go off like this. So I'm completely
Mhm.
ignorant. This is no insider baseball. This is just me guessing along with everybody else, and I'm enjoying it. So get
Mhm.
get that disclaimer out of the way. But what I did do today is I brought up every Old World article and reread them real quick. Which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 articles by my count here. And they are getting quicker and quicker, which is kind of fun. But one of the most interesting things, obviously, they're doing the early maps, kind of like giving an idea of what this was, and then as they go on, they confirm the setting and show us some of the potential upgrades for like Kislev, Tomb Kings, Bretonia through art and such, which is fun. But and some of it's obviously art being used for Total War Warhammer 3. Which, by the way, Neil, did you see the announcement today that the Mighty Empires or whatever it's called, Immortal Empires for Total War Warhammer? If you have Total War Warhammer, or actually everybody gets access to it now. Doesn't matter if you have all the games or not.
Gets access to Immortal Empires.
Yes, I think you need Total
Oh,
Warhammer
nice.
3 at least, but like you get access to all of them. It's in beta right now, but they're just like, hey, everybody gets to have fun.
Nice. I love
Yeah.
it.
Let's see. Yep, we've got map of Bretonia. It's just where we started seeing like, oh, like where's this? People are seeing we're seeing names. They were trying to figure out like the setting. Obviously, it's what 200 to 300 years before the end times. So it's before Magnus the Pious. It's the time of the three emperors, which listening to Val talk on his show, I think is about a 300-year-ish timeline that they're playing with. So there's even a lot of wiggle room before that, and that happened right after things like the Vampire Count Civil War. So there's a lot of interesting stuff, and they could shift back and forth slightly. They could blur some lines, I'm sure. Um,
Mhm.
so it's a very interesting time, and like I actually went back into a lot, like my Empire book, my Dwarf books. Yeah, I have all the 8th edition books now. I went back into most of them and looked at that timeline, which I think is 1979 by the Imperial calendar. Around that time, there's not much detail about this time, which is good because it gives them a lot of creativity and a lot of freedom.
Absolutely. 100%. So I'm excited to if they pretty much said Cathay
Cathay, Nippon,
and
Kislev. Yep.
Kislev will be in there.
Well, that's true.
It'll
They
be
haven't
interesting to see what else they do. So,
they
but
haven't confirmed Cathay yet for Old World.
they
Just
haven't.
just
Well, yeah,
Nippon.
I'm thinking more along the lines of Total War,
Yeah.
but they're going to be in it. I mean, when he's asking, what do we think is going to be in it? I think that's exactly what you're going to see. You're going to see a new army for Kislev. I think you'll see new models for that. I think you'll see new models for Cathay. Possibly not anywhere immediately, but possibly Nippon,
Mm-hmm.
which was an old one. Um, Those are what I think you're going to see, the newer armies that they have never released. I think you're going to see that because there is so many substitutes floating around for other models. Now, I get they could potentially revamp a high elf line. I just don't see them doing that.
So
Uh, I don't ever see because there's too much 3D, too many 3D prints, too many of the old models still floating around. And have they confirmed it to be Forge World?
I think that's what everyone's thinking because that's probably
Okay.
the people handling it. It's
And
it's
if it's Forge World, and man, I know, like, I love
We'll see,
GW
but
models and everything, but
Forge World
Forge
does.
World prices for a high elf army that I've already got, where I can find cheap somewhere else, cheapish at least.
So
Now a
Forge World
Forge
does
World
do
army
plastic
for
now, though. They have plastic because you look at the Horse Heresy, that's plastic, and it's
yeah,
still Forge World. So it's not out of
that's
the
true. If,
question.
if it's more like standard GW prices, that will be more realistic than something like Forge World has done in the past with the resins and
Here, let
stuff.
me
So,
let me blow your mind because this is how I feel it's going to happen. Because to me, I thought about this a lot. This is how I think
mhm,
it works best. So let's look at like because I'm looking at the article right now where they said square bases are in, and they have confirmed in this article you can use your old armies.
right.
So they're not looking to carte blanche redo every army, and that would be hard. Like that would just be hard
Yeah.
because it's not going to be a big team. But
Yeah.
they're going to focus on things like Kislev.
Hmm.
They're going to focus on maybe the very specifics of the empire that separates them since it's the time of three emperors. Um,
Hmm.
you're going to see, like Nippon. You're going to see possibly even Tomb Kings and Bretonnian getting redone because those are things that don't really exist anymore.
Hmm.
Now, what will they do for the other things? So here's what I predict. Every couple months, they'll put out, hey, they're gonna put an article out like, hey, Old World, we're gonna do a made to order high elves.
Right. Yeah.
Everything of the modern of the last high elves they had, they're gonna like, hey, you have 1 week, put an order for it. It may take 90 days. We'll reprint it because they still have the molds
Yeah.
at GW, and
And
like,
that,
there's why would they not use those? Because they're still fine, they're still good, they still work.
right.
So you'll
I
have
know. I
those
know. We all hate the old high elf spearmen, but you know what? There are alternatives.
right,
If you hate them that bad,
right. And so what they'll do is
So,
like, I think we'll get made to orders for armies every couple months. In case someone's new and says, "Oh, I really want to play high elves." Okay, well you can. You just like here's where it is, or some sort of
mhm,
structure like that. While the new stuff that
yeah.
doesn't and I said they could do that with Bretonnians and Tomb Kings now. I think those are more
Right.
likely to get redone because those have been missed for
And
longer, and
yeah.
stuff like that. And then obviously the maybe some Empire stuff to fill in with the old Empire stuff. But
And to come off of that though, I think that though that's when they'll probably release the book for that army too, right?
well, the books I'm a little curious on. Like how
Because
because like
you know
if you look at
what?
Horse Heresy, you have the core rule book, which is just like the big red book, like has
Mhm,
story, army, and then basic rules. And then there's another big book based upon loyalist factions and heretical factions. Now, I don't think we're gonna get right away high elf army book, wood elf army. I think we'll get elf army book, and it's gonna be separated within that one book. But I think it's what's gonna be is you're gonna buy the bulk. Like here's the humans. I think it's gonna be done by race. Honestly, here's the dwarves. Like here, and here's and here's the forces of chaos. Here's the demons or something like that. So I think because like financially, it makes more sense to sell as many books as possible. So if you have everybody having to buy books, even if there's stuff in there that they don't use, they're gonna buy it for what they do need it for, and maybe
yeah,
let
but
them
then
start the other armies.
I
We're not gonna see individual army books until this takes off and starts succeeding. Honestly, that to me, like that's financially, that's never gonna happen. It's
yeah,
ludicrous.
you might be right there, but like
No, I know I'm
if it
right.
does though, you are you're cannibalizing future sales because you're going to make more money based on everybody having to have an initial rule book and then selling.
Well, so no, see, here's you're not looking too far ahead. So you have the core rule book. Yes, everyone has to buy that separately. But if you have like the elf book and then the human book, and then the dwarf book, and then this book, and then you just come out and say, this is what we're getting started with. And if this game takes off and becomes successful, then we'll start doing the individual army books again.
Yeah,
Because like, don't forget, this is a small team probably doing this in comparison to 40K and Age of Sigmar, and
sure,
they need to sell as much stuff as possible for it to be successful.
sure. Hmm.
So
That's interesting thought.
that's my thought. And also back to the models real quick. I think too, like on a whim, they'll redo character models across whatever army they feel, because
Yeah, I can see that.
hey, here's a new Teclis sculpt and Tyrion sculpt. I have every version of that, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
buy this.
Oh, you're gonna buy them? Yeah,
I'm
for
gonna
sure.
buy the new. Yeah, like why not? Like, and they occasionally they might mix in something fun, and like they could throw in new stuff too. Like there's plenty of stuff in that setting that they could do for all armies that just be like, yeah, it's always been there. That's fine. Like here's
Hmm.
like the elite guard of White Lions or something, and especially with the humans being the time of the three emperors and being more individualized states, you could
Hmm.
really get deep into that. So I think it's going to be selling the new hotness, and I think the models are going to be so gorgeous that we're all going to start a new army
Yeah.
of some sort. But thankfully, the old stuff will still work. So if you're not able to and you still have your old army, it's just buying the rules and you're good to go. I'm
It's
trying to,
good.
yeah, and like I said, what I do like I said is we're seeing more and more news about the old world, um, like regular articles like every other week. And this is the 40th anniversary for Warhammer Fantasy, so hopefully that means we'll get an announcement this year. I don't know if we'll get a release this year because I think this is supposedly going to be a big year for 40K. If you look at just how the flows happen, doesn't mean they can't change it up. Doesn't mean they're not going to change it up. It's all unknown. Um,
I'm very much hoping for, if not an Adepticon, then when do they
Warhammer,
do Warhammer Fest?
uh, the week after.
Okay, yeah, so I'm very much hoping it's coming soon.
I hope there's an announcement at least,
Or
and a trailer, even if it
maybe
says,
a
hey,
roadmap, something like that.
yeah, even if it's, hey, this is not coming out till next year
Hmm.
or Christmas. If there's at least give me a trailer and give me a general date. I'd be happy. That's all I want. Because like I said, I'm
Yep.
gonna keep playing fantasy battles right now, 8th edition, and having fun.
Yep.
Cool. Well, that was all the questions that there were. Like I said, it wasn't a ton, but it's enough to deep dive in conversation. So
Hmm.
I'm excited about Old World. I'm hoping that this if okay, Neil, we gotta be honest to us and our audience. If we start talking about Old World all the time, we need to have two shows: the Old World show and then just the general Strength Hammer show. Okay.
You know what's funny is this is the first time in my wargaming hobby that I've been legitimately excited about. Let's see. I love playing AOS right now.
Yep.
I love playing 40K right now.
Yep.
I love playing fantasy battles right now, and even like this is a little bit non GW stuff, but I like Marvel Crisis Protocol. Like I'm having more fun with wargaming right now than I've probably across more spectrums than I probably ever had. So I could talk about any of these things whenever.
There we go. Well, so as long as your family doesn't mind, we can start the Old World podcast. The best damn Old World
my
podcast ever.
my wife would strangle me, but that's a tale for another day.
Well, we'll just have to get her on a podcast then. She can run this one with me, and then you and I will do the Old World.
There you go.
Yeah, that's not going to be
She'd have a
awkward.
better winning record just showing up day one.
There you go. All right. Anything else, Neil? Sounds like a show.
That'd be it for me. Yep.
Awesome. Well, everybody, happy hobbying. Don't fear the old world, and stay Stormcast strong.